I'll just sum up based on, and then we will go into questions. But having seen the government's willingness to distort conversations to suggest things are impossible that are already happening, will indicate that the Early Childhood Commission has a professional development activity on the 19th to the 23rd of May, for which the cost is $20,000 and $15,000 if you're an early bird. That is only one of possibly many hours that you would have to face for professional development. So as we are speaking, there is indeed this probability of cost. We're also wanting to make it clear that we are not against registration or regulation. What we are against is the approach. As have been indicated by our proposals, we are not against the licensing, the registration, or the renewal. However, we feel, if I may repeat, that we should merge registration and licensing into a single streamlined process. Extend the licensing period from 5 years to 10 years for stability. Introduce 6-month grace period for license renewal after expiry. Require police record only once unless there is a reasonable cost to request another. And fund the Jamaica Teaching Council through direct government subvention, not teacher licensing fees. With 30,000 teachers, if the licensing fee is $20,000 per teacher, they would have taxed the teachers $600 million. If it is that this is so necessary, it should be funded by government and not by the teachers paying fees. We are not against continuous professional development. In fact, we are very much in support. As we have recommended, if I may repeat, mandate all required CPD courses to be free or fully subsidized, such as the example that I've given just a minute ago for our teachers. Grant CPD credit for in-service accomplishments such as mentoring, leadership, and school contributions. Create a national CPD portal that is accessible online and offline with rural access guarantees. Introduce a 6-month grace period so that difficulty can be considered for persons who have not completed CPD in cases of hardship or in cases of pregnancy. We go further, provide tangible incentives for CPD completion, such as increments for salary, promotion points, or public recognition. It is important that the public recognize a trend in the approach to the Jamaica Labour Party's efforts. We saw it when the PMP had to go for a constitutional challenge to NIDS, which was another big stick approach to any form of formalization. No carrots were mentioned. Overreach into homeschooling, voluntarism, and online education. Indeed, there are already systems in place to ensure that homeschooling have to go through certain hoops. Now, they are proposing that you can only teach your own child or you must be registered. I myself is at risk because voluntarism is now based on being ad hoc. I go every Saturday. Therefore, that is no longer ad hoc. So the private tutoring is at risk. And also, they have now policed online tutoring, but only for Jamaicans because they can't police overseas online tutoring, taking us out of the competitive space as it relates to that. A person who have a actuarial degree or a mathematics degree, but not a trained teacher, can't go online and work out the CXC past paper for persons who are trying to address. We are not against regulation, but we ask for Section 4 to be amended to clearly exempt community volunteers, such as Ms. Dassa up in a dying community who has taken on the responsibility of hosting students on our veranda for our veranda basic. Private tutors below a certain teaching threshold, and church and informal instructors. Introduce a volunteer class registration without fees or full regulation for non-profit, non-formal educators. Create separate regulatory categories for full-time professional teachers, private tutors, and informal educators. Protect parental rights and educational freedom by shielding homeschool groups and co-ops from criminalization. And also support educational innovation, ensuring that the law does not suppress community-based initiatives. Indeed, We are not against teachers being fit and proper, nor are we against teachers being competent to teach. However, we want these to be defined so that they can be cognizant of what fit and proper is before they face the music. Also, we hope that they understand fully what competent to teach is, as many teachers are fearful that this may be sneaking through the back door, performance pay. And there are some people who say, oh, it's the teacher's fault. I want to make a bet with any Jamaicans willing to take it up. Swap all the teachers from Campion to Holy Trinity, and swap all the teachers from Holy Trinity to Campion. And you tell me if Campion will become Holy Trinity, and Holy Trinity will become Campion. The reality is that that will definitely not be so. We want to require the council to issue written reasons to protect persons. We are not against regulation, but we are against the punitive nature of this bill. Establish a legal defense fund or provide state-sponsored legal aid for accused teachers. We have already seen this happening with the police when they face indicum. Even after they're cleared, they're punished with the cost of legal representation, sometimes up to millions of dollars, though they are cleared. So therefore, we want this legal defense fund to be set up. And if there's any fee, it should go directly to the legal defense fund. Guarantee the right to face and respond to one's accuser. Prohibit double jeopardy. Guarantee salary continuation while you are in the process of appeal. And implement a proportional penalty framework so that the cost of teaching without a license isn't almost 10 times the cost of driving without a license. Now, driving without a license must have greater hazardous and risk to the society than the risk of teaching. There is no proportionality. We're also saying that we want schools to remain flexible. This bill seems to have borrowed what happens in many more developed countries without considering our realities and our situation. I know in some areas in the United States, they have replacement teachers on call and substitutes. And the region will send a substitute as soon as the principal requires. We don't have that situation. Indeed, we might have to ask the physics teacher to teach math for us. We have heard on many occasions, especially in the first few weeks of school, that schools are still having advertisement for multiple spaces because teachers have indicated resignation at the last moment. This doesn't fit our current realities in rural areas. This doesn't fit our current realities in dying communities. This doesn't fit our realities in dangerous communities, where this government have removed peril pay, which was an encouragement for persons to go into rural spaces, which was an encouragement for persons to go into violence-prone communities. That peril pay has been removed, and then in addition, this bill seeks to remove flexibility, causing for principals to face serious constraint. It was not until we recommended that principals had to be as leadership on the committee, on the council, that it was included as a probability for principals to be included. But a principal may not even know when someone is being investigated, and therefore only have information on the day that they are instructed that the person should no longer teach. What if that happens in May, right before CXC? What if that happens in April? The teacher then would have to start the process of trying to find replacement instead of having been informed and continuously been able to assess what the probability of the outcome could be. And so we're asking for those things to be included. And as my very able junior spokesperson have indicated, we would prefer a bill that makes the teachers want to sign on, not one that forces them to sign on. Because if you're going to force them to sign on with a big stick approach with big bosses watching, then you're only adding an inducement to find other pastures. And that inducement will do the opposite of what the bill claims that it intends. So again, we repeat, we're not against regulation. We are for a different approach that treats our teachers with trust And as the Teachers Party, we will continue to lobby for teachers to be treated right and correctly.
Thank you very much, Senator Damion Crawford. And